Hey, everybody. It is some day of the week. Is it Wednesday? I think it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Some month. Is it 2020 still? I don't know. I'm Mike. I'm talking with Helen Bukulmez. You see, I tried to do the UL. I'm getting it. So we're going to talk to Helen in just a minute. Before I do that, I'm going to share some resources with you guys. Remember that as we do these Facebook Lives, one of the cool things about the technology is you can put questions and comments below. So as you join us, say hi, push the button, let us know where you're at. So I'm going to go share just a few resources real quick, and we'll come back and chat with Helen about how she's adapting to the madness. All right. So first, back to the Lawyer Forward group. We're going to make sure that it is recording. The first thing I wanted to do, I don't know if you guys know, I talk a lot about Brian Clark, who created Copyblogger and just a really smart guy. I quote him quite a bit in the book. And his conversation with Seth Godin about the difference between a solopreneur and a freelancer. Anyway, he's got this newsletter. It's designed for Gen X, and he just talks about a lot of stuff that's relevant to Gen X. And they did this cool article that starts you on a conversation about a certain way to deal with money. It's this Japanese idea of dealing with money and cleaning it up the way you would your house, right? So you're thinking about it almost in a spiritual way, that precision as you deal with your money. So it's really interesting because it's about putting things in their right place. They're very particular about what is a necessity and what is an investment. So for example, there's needs, which is your fixed expenses, leisures and wants. And I like this one, this culture one, this idea, especially for lawyers, that you spend money educating yourself. And whether that's, educating yourself in terms of, a liberal arts thing, you literally are doing arts, or it's you decide to learn more about your business and your practice. I just really like that they're investing a percentage in yourself, right? Each month. So check out that article. It links to other more robust descriptions. A couple of other ones. I wanted to share this. This is an article about service design. During the conference, I had a long conversation with John Strohmeyer about service design. And there's a lot of talk about this among lawyers, about how I've got the best service and everybody loves the way I treat them and blah, blah, blah. Most of it's just noise, right? We're not actually doing much special other than being nice, and that's cool. That's sort of a bare minimum. I'm not saying don't be nice, but I'm saying service design is a discipline. It's got principles. There are methodologies that they use to improve the service experience. And so that's an article about 15 really broad principles of service design. If you want to up the game of how you think about the way people experience your service, then go read these principles. I think it's really important that you do this stuff on purpose. The last thing I wanted to share, this is from John Grant, who I spoke to today, also known as the Agile Attorney. As an aside, you guys reach out to John Grant. He's not watching this. He told me he doesn't. He goes and plays with his kids this late. He will never come on here. But go talk to John Grant. He's legit one of my favorite people and super smart about process stuff. The work that I don't want to do of flying to your firm and talking to you about fixing your process, he does that stuff. So, we have this relationship where I talk about the why a lot and he gets into the how a lot. This is a really cool tool called Miro that he showed me today. It's a collaborative whiteboard. So you see that I like to put Post-it notes up on walls and figure things out. This is me doing that business model canvas thing I told you guys about, which I'll share later. But this has Miro is a really cool way to do it in a way that you can share with other people. So check that out if you're doing any kind of collaboration. And that is it for tonight. I would just remind you, as we point to the sky here in the middle, there's the hashtag AskTwinsies at the top. Nick and I are giving terrible advice every Sunday night. All you have to do is ask for really bad advice and you'll get it, right? Just use the hashtag AskTwinsies and we will find it. So, Helen, we are back to you, and you have to unmute yourself now. I'm talking to Helen Bukulmez. She, you know what it reminds me of? Can I tell you a quick story?
Please do.
So I went on a 2-year mission to Italy. That's where my church mission was. And they have a GL sound, like milione. They have this, when GL goes together, the way we say million, it sort of has this G in it. Anyway, I don't know if it's right at all, but when I say your name, I hear that kind of. So you say it. You say your last name.
Bukulmez.
Okay, yours is cooler. I don't.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna.
no.
I'm gonna
I
get
think you're onto something because that
close.
sana milyon kere söyledim is Turkish, and that milyon there, it's kind of like, it's almost like a capricious girl saying a million.
Capricious. Man, you even use cool English words. You did get some good English as a second language training when you say words like capricious in a sentence. So, guys, Helen and I shared yesterday the thing we did with Colin too. That was the Law Insider session about getting deals done during COVID, and Helen was nice enough to help with that. And we've talked a bit about your practice, but I want to ask sort of how you're doing. But first, tell me just a little bit about your practice. You're in Kentucky. What kind of practice do you have there?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I handle cases in immigration law. That was sort of my experience coming to the United States, and I figured I could fall back on it when there was another recession back in 2008 and 2009, and that practice area has been very rewarding. I also handle personal injury, medical malpractice, motor vehicle collisions, slip and falls, all kinds of personal injury that you can think of.
And what metroplex are you in? What are you near?
Lexington, Kentucky, Northern Kentucky. These are the areas that I usually get calls from, but I'm pretty much mobile. So, I may go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. I may end up in Louisville, Kentucky. It depends on the type of case and the type of client that I talk to.
Well, yeah, and in immigration, obviously, you can travel wherever the freak for that. Jim Hacking at Maximum Lawyer talks a lot about, he'll post that he's in Portland this day and Kansas City that day and New York that day, and he's just all over the place. So I want to start by just asking you, how are you doing? Like, how are you feeling right now? Or are you dealing with a lot of anxiety? Are you at home? Are you wanting to bury spouses or kids like I am? How are you feeling right now?
Interestingly, I am feeling wonderful. And the reason for that is for the last 5 years, that includes my legal marketing career with a large national website design company, and then following just handling cases on my own, I have been remote. So this is, in terms of the type of work that I do, is nothing new. Right. I used to handle law firms and attorneys' accounts remotely. So this is nothing new in the fact that I have to work from home and be around my family. But in terms of what's changed outside, when I step outside, that's very different, obviously. And also in terms of communications and expectations and boundaries, that has changed a lot. So I would definitely say that in terms of the change, the client mood, the mood of the colleagues, and all of that has changed. It's full of opportunity, but different.
Yeah, tell me about that, because right now, President Trump did a quote-unquote freeze on immigration, which was really a symbolic gesture because it had already functionally been stopped anyway because all the offices were closed. So I'm assuming that for you in terms of work, I mean, there's just not stuff to do. Like, how's that playing out in an immigration firm right now?
That's very true in terms of the business development efforts. There are no clients calling and saying, I have this case, I'm ready to pay, let's go. The news of the immigration ban has definitely placed a chill on the business development efforts. That doesn't mean that we're not able to find people who need us and try to show them how we can serve them, but it's definitely made them people more fearful. And my job, or our jobs as immigration attorneys, is basically simplify and clarify what that means. Right. I have posted on LinkedIn and social media. I try to inform people, when you look at what is in that immigration ban and the executive order, there's not much. He hasn't really limited the people in the U.S. from seeking green card applications or any other benefits. He is limiting some in terms of what's happening overseas. If you are someone who wants to bring your parents and you're only a green card holder, that is on hold right now. And of course, there's a lot of vague language in there where the consulates and the officers abroad could interpret that to say no to a lot of things. So it's up in the air, but it's not as bad as it sounded when he sent out that Twitter not long ago.
I mean, I'm assuming that he has been sort of a mixed bag in terms of immigration work because, you know, some of the stuff that he's done has created a lot of work, right? Because people get, there are just a lot of things to apply for, right? And it's created a lot more anxiety that makes people, I assume, more likely to seek professional help. But, you know, a shutdown's a shutdown. But again, I'm curious to see what's going to happen in the next, because he's opening everything up, quote unquote. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts the immigration system, right? Because do you know, are they, as he's saying, we're opening up the country right now, the executive order about the immigration ban is still on though, right? Like that's still shut down.
The quote-unquote immigration ban is effective for 60 days from April 23rd. He did put in there that it's up to him to extend that if it's seen fit. And, you know, putting politics aside, I think it's an effort to appease his base,
sure,
to show that he's doing something. And it sounds a lot worse than it actually is. And if you're not reading the executive order, you may think that he's really doing some of the things that he has promised. And again, I say this in a very apolitical way. So if you are an American citizen, you're bringing your family here, you've just got married to a foreign national, if you're a green card holder, there are a lot of things that you can still do. There are some limitations, but that you know, that's going to be there for 60 days, and we'll see if he actually extends that. In terms of the client behavior, interesting how, in addition to the chill that we've gotten from that immigration ban and its publicity, the client behavior has changed in a way. I think they're also using this time as an opportune time to reach out to the attorneys and say, I lost my job. I have no income coming in. I'm in dire need for services. Can you please help me? When I get a job, I promise to pay you, or that, you know, I have no way of paying you, but here's my emotional story. Do you think you can help me? So the client behavior has definitely been affected by what's going on right now.
Yeah, you mentioned that other lawyers and that sort of mood has changed. Tell me what you mean by that. Are you feeling like lawyers are doom and gloom? Are they thinking of changing practice area? Like, what are you seeing from other lawyers?
From my perspective, both, you know, marketing, and I'm an attorney, and hiking lawyers and all that, I'm looking around to see that a lot of colleagues who have lost their jobs or who have lost their business development results, they're still putting on a, you know, strong front, but in the back, they're kind of slipping into that, what's going to happen next. But right, let me not say anything about it because we're so full of pride and we don't want to tell other people that we're suffering in any financial, emotional, or professional way. I think there's a huge opportunity there too, which I tried to initiate this evening and sent a message to my friends saying, listen, this is kind of like the thrift shop, right? I have something at home that I'm not using and I think I don't need it. And that may be a treasure hunt for you. So I may have this client base that I'm not really serving, and you might need that in your business development efforts, or I might need a job opening in a company or a law firm right now that I'm not interested in, and right, that might be a great fit for you. So I'm seeing a lot of opportunity for more conversation and for more collaboration. And I know part of your topic tonight is collaboration tools, but I think social media is simple and as distracting as it can be. We can also use it to collaborate and help each other out too.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a legal tech brand about potentially doing some writing with them, and they were talking about the new normal and like what we should do with the new normal. And I said to them, I was like, I would be shocked if there's a new normal, right? Like if courts actually change anything, if bar associations actually change anything, if law schools actually change anything. It's been 100 years of way worse than this moment, and they still haven't done any of that. It's really going to be driven by the lawyer demand. Everything that I've seen is like lawyers organize and lobby to get changes. And so, I told him, really, we need to talk about how to create your own new normal. Like right now, if your idea of growth was, if you're saying to yourself, I need to grow my firm, and you think growth only means dollar signs and your name on the side of a building, you're going to be depressed right now, right? But if you think of it in terms of, think of social capital as an asset, your connections as an asset, how you communicate, your brand value, right? That's all growth that you can do right now. That's all stuff you can do right now.
Absolutely. And that's such an excellent point. I wish more colleagues would be hearing that. I'll give you an example. I speak a couple of other languages, and I wanted to use this time, which is even more down than usual for me, to create value, to provide some type of customer service that didn't exist before, either for me or just in general. And I began to look around to see if there are any resources in Turkish. I grew up in Izmir, Turkey, so it's one of my native languages. And I looked around to see if the Turkish communities, immigrants in the U.S., are aware of their rights. If they're not, do they have a Turkish resource to understand their legal rights? For example, not long ago, I received a phone call from someone who was almost arrested and suffered some financial loss due to the fact that he didn't know if you have a police officer behind you with the lights on, that means stop. Well, it doesn't in Europe, right? They have their sound devices that says pull over, but it doesn't have anything to do with the sirens or the lights on the police car. So that kind of was an interesting experience where now I'm talking about, okay, if you see a police car behind you with the lights on, that means pull over. And that could be such a valuable advice to somebody who doesn't speak English or who doesn't maybe speak it that well. So ever since I started that group, it's all about information. I'm not even saying come hire me, because obviously I can't serve everybody in the United States. I make it very clear that I'm only licensed in Kentucky. But the amount of information I've been able to share about the way medical malpractice cases work, that in the U.S., if you have suffered medical injury, then you may have an option to recoup some of the compensatory or punitive damages. In some countries, that may not be possible, or the only possible defendant may be the government, such as in Turkey. So showing people that there's value in providing information is actually providing a lot more business development results for me than just going out there and saying 859-797, call me. Yeah. That's not doing anything right now, but providing information, providing value, and providing a way for people to spend time in their own language seems to be working a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting. People keep using right now the example of Johnson & Johnson taking a ton of market share during the Depression, and if only you would do that. I'm like, Johnson & Johnson they had a bunch of capital. They went out on very few media sources because there were only a few at the time, and they just paid for the attention. And so they got brand awareness because nobody else was playing. And so, right now, the equivalent of that for people with no capital, which is common with small businesses and us specifically, but the equivalent of that is you have all kinds of channels that you can go out and build influence right now. And as with Johnson & Johnson, it may not pay off during the recession, but it could pay off afterwards, that you've got this larger amount of, we'll call it market share, which is really mind share. It's just being in people's presence. So there's work you guys can do. Don't feel down. I was curious if on the personal side at your home, how are you said that you had been working from home for a long time, so there wasn't much of an adjustment. Did you have any, tips or ideas on how people can do that balance so that they don't, Kristen got mad at me, mad about using the term work-life balance, but not trip up over, the fact that I can think about my business until 4 in the morning, and I have done that. How do you avoid that? How do you keep things in their box so you can, but still have the advantage of the fact that you can work on it whenever you want to? How do you deal with that?
It has, even my process has been challenged, and I say even my process because I'm a bit spoiled. My son is 26 years old. He's a successful medical school student here in Louisville, Kentucky. So I don't have small children at home. I do have a beagle puppy that is very needy, but she definitely doesn't get in the way of work. I don't have to set aside any time other than the walks, and also I am a very process-oriented person. Everything is in a box on my calendar, but even that is challenged because what used to happen outside is not the same anymore. I used to have a box there that said either go to Starbucks or a Boston Creamery or whatever it may be, where I could get out and kind of have a, smelling the coffee effect for my brain.
Like even if you're working, just to change scenery, like helps your brain stay awake. Yeah.
That's not happening, but the good side is, a shameless plug here, is our group Hiking Warriors. I think you may be in it too. I have a box for hiking. I owe my mental clarity, management of fear, management of failure, management of what's going to happen in the near future, to hiking. If I'm able to get out and hike, that definitely gives me the benefits, and I can just talk all day about how that changes my mindset and how I come back completely refreshed after a 6-mile hike. If I can't do 6 mile, it can be 4 miles. If I had a terrible deposition with an asshole opposing counsel, it can be 18 miles. But whatever it is, I have prescription for everything that it's working. And I have been focusing on that group and trying to see how I can make more attorneys aware of that group, and we can share how that's helping all of us.
Yeah, my wife says to me yesterday, she said, I've decided something very ominous. And I was like, okay. And she says, I think we need to go on walks every day. I was like, cool. Are you thinking like 8 in the morning? She's like, I want a divorce. She is not one to get up and go for a walk in the morning. So I was like, when are we doing this, honey? Are you thinking 8:30? 8:45? What do you, 7? So we're going to have to figure out a time that both of us want to go for a walk.
See, that's where the dogs help. She has to go out 3 times. So my hike has to happen because she's ready to go. And that's like at least 2 miles. And then in the afternoon, you get like 6 miles.
You have a beagle?
Yep.
You take that dog for 6 miles worth of walking?
She's a champion.
Wow. Little legs.
I think I may break the dog, but we'll
really
see.
It's got some mileage on it. Well, I appreciate that. I do want people to be able to connect with you and to ask about. I'm really interested in the immigration practice thing as somebody who's moved multiple places and tried to figure out how to practice in multiple states. I like immigration as a practice area. I know a lot of people are thinking about moving practice areas. It's right now anyway. It's a moving. It's a very imprecise area in a good way. That like there's work to do. So if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect?
If they can spell my last name, which is Bukulmez, Bukulmez. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. The group Hiking Lawyers is another way to easily find and connect with me. And immigration law is a great opportunity right now to do that pro bono work. If you don't have anything else to do, instead of sitting there and worrying about what's happening tomorrow, maybe take an immigration case and try to learn 1 or 2. I am trying to do the same thing with the unemployment cases. I never did them before, and now I'm taking 1 or 2, trying to help people while I'm learning it myself. So I definitely highly recommend it, and there's a lot of work to be done in that area. So it's definitely promising.
Well, very cool. I appreciate the information, and I would just remind everybody watching that if you want to get in contact with Helen, you can post questions below this. It will show up in her notifications, and make sure that you remember to post Ask Twinsies questions during the week. Nick and I, we're going to have a conversation tonight. I'm doing one of these Zoom party rooms or whatever with him. And he tends to lean back in a leather chair. Sometimes he'll lay in his bed and turn on the Zoom. It's very creepy. The whole thing is super creepy. So that's the quality of personalities you've got giving you advice. We might even have a special guest on Sunday. So anyway, you guys post and use hashtag AskTwinsies, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you again, Helen.
Thank you.